This one's huge because if you win this on Saturday, you're a significant home favorite away from rolling into Austin unbeaten. And more importantly, to get to 10, you're probably getting in the playoff. I mean, I know there's a world, which would be a really cruel world that you don't, but I think you probably are. And again, you really set yourself up for some great things moving forward. So it's like if you clear this road hurdle, and we said the same thing last week, but if you clear this road hurdle, it's just like every time you unlock even more possibilities.
Yep.
And I think if you clear this road hurdle, you start thinking about an undefeated regular season. You start thinking about reaching Atlanta for the first time. You start thinking about a playoff bye. You start thinking about all of these things. And I know people, don't look ahead. We're looking ahead because we're talking about what could happen if you go win this weekend. And they have a real chance to go up there on the road. It won't be easy, though. But, unlike previous years, you're talking about a team that's now won in South Bend. They won in Fayetteville. They won in Death Valley. Now they got to go win in Columbia.
You ready for questions?
Yeah.
First one comes from our guy, Walk 'em Off. On a scale of 1 to 10, how serious is the Scooby injury?
It depends on what you're talking. I don't think it's not like season ending, and I think I don't think it's a 1 weeker though. I'll put it that way. Remember what you got. You got Missouri, you got South Carolina, then you got Samford. A lot of these things with like him and Moss why would you ever play against Samford if you're coming back from an injury, right? So I think I would circle potentially Texas, for he and Le'Veon. So I don't. It's not serious if that's what you're asking, like season ending or some kind of long term thing. But I think enough that he was out on a Wednesday, which Elko you don't typically see that on a Wednesday with some of these guys that So when you're out on a Wednesday, you're probably, unless it's concussion related, which in this case I don't believe it is. But when you're out on a Wednesday, you're probably it's probably not a 1 week thing. And if it's a 2 week thing, then it may as well be a 3 week thing because, like I said, there's no reason to rush back against Samford and risk injuring it before Texas and any kind of postseason.
Next question comes from Reverend Captain Clayton. Obligatory contract extension question. Any updates on that front?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because I was kind of sitting on that. Now that you asked, I'm going to talk about it during Ask Liucci because that's how I would break that kind of important piece of news. No, it's a good question. I'm giving you a hard time, but I'm not. If I had something significant to talk about, my point is that's big enough that I would have, separate posted that. Probably had Zane do a story on that. So the answer right now, no. But look, I don't know if people are trying to make it as if it's some sort of secret, but there's no doubt that the powers that be are working with. It's not like Elko's sitting there spending a lot of time on this week, guys. So it's like the powers that be and probably his representation, they're hard at work on that front. That is not something that A&M is asleep at the wheel on, and they're trying to get, the right thing ironed out. I know I scare people when I don't talk about enough, when there's really nothing to talk about. And when there are rumors, not rumors, but look, I've said it before. Penn State, it's not Matt Rule. Mike Elko's been their primary target. Yeah. I do believe that they'll ultimately have to move on from him. I'm not. So if it's coming off as I think he's leaving, that's not what I think. I do think they've targeted him, but not today, like weeks ago. And they've done that. I think he was their primary. I don't think it was Matt Rule. Do you really think Matt Rule would? I think Matt Rule would have left Nebraska if Penn State would have gone on a wild, furious push for him. So I'm not saying as if I don't know. Like if they had their choice of coaches, I think it would be Mike Elko. I think they're like most schools in coaching searches. You have to continue that search. And so I'm not by not saying anything. It's not like to stoke fear and stuff. I've just learned you never close the book, shut the door until you go, okay, new deal signed, he's done. And even then, it doesn't have to be done. I think with Elko it would be, and I don't think he's looking to leave either. I think he's got something pretty special going on here. But I also think this is that moment in time where Elko, I think, can get a lot of things accomplished that he wants to accomplish with leverage in terms of not for his own money and salary sake. I think we'd all be naive to think he's not due a raise when you look at that salary. And I think if you're an Aggie decision maker and you were to say like, oh man, he agreed to this deal and it's got, I think that's stupid. And I don't think it's going to work that way. I think he's, when I say it's not about money, it doesn't mean he's not going to get a raise.
Yeah.
And probably, extension to go with it. What I mean is it's not about money, like in terms of his leverage. He's not trying to drum up the price like a lot of coaches do. I think when I say leverage, I mean, hey, 90% of this is perfect. 10% of this I need better so we can win a national championship here and stay in the mix my whole time here and be a top 5 program while I was here. So I've been here 2 years now, been here 6 total. This is what I need to change for us to stay here and do this again next year and the year after. This is what I need for NIL. This is what I need for, whatever it is you need to retain coaches. Now's the time to kind of leverage what you got going and make sure that stuff gets done.
Sorry, you can never have just one Oreo.
No.
They're so good.
No, they are.
Overdog, he has 2 true-false questions for you, okay? True or false? 1, I think you might have just answered this. Elko will be our coach next year.
Yeah, I lean heavily true. It's like it's not. I don't put it at 100%, but I put it heavily true. I've just a lifetime of experience in this business is like I don't put it at 100% anymore, but I feel good.
True or false? Lamar Brown will sign with LSU.
I think true. I mean, like that new coach that gets there, whoever that may be, is going to like so much of his initial energy from that fan base, his popularity, and all that is going to hinge on keeping that player in Baton Rouge. He's literally, it'd be like a new coach coming here, and there's a guy at Consol, College Station, or like Ty Warren at Bryan High. Like it'd be like Ty Warren at Bryan High, actually, very much so. Like a new coach comes in, and you just, even more so though in Baton Rouge because the pressure and stuff, like he's got to keep him, and I think they would ultimately probably do whatever it takes to make that happen. So if I was a betting man, that's what I'd bet. I would not rule A&M out. They're certainly in the mix, and they've got Lamar's full attention.
Postal, how do the Aggies avoid another Arkansas performance?
Well, I think first of all, I would take an Arkansas performance from the offense. I'd take that every week. You're talking about the defense, or are you talking about just a close game on the road? I think the way you avoid a close game on the road is just go out and fire on all cylinders. Sometimes maybe even just for a half, as they proved at LSU and against Mississippi State at home. But no, I think, first of all, I don't think they're playing an offense like the one they did against Arkansas or Notre Dame. So I think that the offense they're playing is not on that level. If you're saying how do you avoid playing a nail-biter close game on the road like they did in South Bend or Fayetteville, I think it just put together 4 good quarters. If this team at 4 good quarters is they play 4 good quarters, and we know now what this team is, that they win out. They're not going to get beaten until, obviously somewhere along the way you might meet your match in the playoffs. But 4 good quarters from this team, they win. And hell, I thought they played 3 good quarters against LSU. And in those 3 quarters, they probably outscored them by 30 points.
Something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're probably talking about the defense. I would say, if you want a good defensive performance this week, it involves stopping the run and Hardy and putting a young quarterback into predictable passing down.
Next one comes from Fire Ag. Is the Aggie team we saw in the second half of the LSU game the best team in the nation?
I'm not going to say that because Ohio State exists, but I do think the folks in Columbus, just in my mentions and most of your mentions on social media, they're a hyper-aggressive group. They remind me a lot of OU fans. Just feel like they got to drop F-bombs in everyone, and if you say something like, "Oh, you're too soft," it's just a cuss word, like just town toughies, and it's crazy how defensive they get. That is the best. I think that's the best team in the country. But
thank you to the warehouse at CC Creations for this free portion of this content on TexAgs.com. If you want the extended version, go to TexAgs.com/subscribe, become a premium subscriber. And if you go to Texas A&M, you can take advantage of this, a free membership to TexAgs.com. Take advantage of it.